Hi, I'm Paul Laney, the retired sheriff from Cass County, North Dakota, and the current vice president of national sales for Turnkey Corrections.
And I'm Lauren Matthews, and I'm the current social media and content specialist here at Turnkey.
And this is Jail Talk. So what is Jail Talk? There are so many issues affecting the law enforcement community today, from the recent COVID-19 crisis to the current civil unrest and riot situations and attack on the law enforcement profession, budget cuts, training issues, mental health issues within law enforcement, and recruiting issues across the country. We're going to help you with that. This is my partner in crime, my sidekick, Lauren. So I imagine, Lauren, when you first signed on here with Turnkey Corrections, being the co-host of a podcast wasn't exactly something you expected you were going to be doing.
No, I definitely didn't expect it, but I guess it technically is in the contract, other duties as assigned.
That's a good catch-all, because I know when I was sheriff, I had right after every policy and other duties is assigned by the sheriff. It works.
It does. No, but it's been a great year. So I've been at Turnkey for a year, and I actually came to be here kind of a different story than everyone else. We have a lot of employees here that, have a history in the industry. But I actually just ended up going to College of St. Benedict, and I played volleyball there for 4 years, and I actually met the CEO's daughter there, and that's how I came to know Todd, and he knew that I was interested in marketing, and they happened to have a position open, so I interviewed and got the job, and now here we are doing a podcast. So funny how that works.
And I think we make a pretty good team with your experience, my experience, combined together. I think we're going to have a lot of impact for our listeners, and I think every day we come in here and every time we come do this, we want our people to walk away with something better than the last time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've been a little modest so far. You spoke a little bit about where you come from, but I think we need to share with our listeners really the expertise you're going to bring to this. So I just want to share with everyone, some of the awards you've won. You're a 2-term member on the National Sheriff's Association board. You served in a number of board positions in your community. In 2011, you won the E911 Institute Government Leader Award and was presented to you at the Ronald Reagan Building in Washington. In 2012, you were the National Sheriff's Association National Sheriff of the Year. And in 2017, you received the President's Award from the National Sheriff's Association for your leadership at the Dakota Access Pipeline protests. Whew! It's quite the sheet you got there. So I can certainly see why, our company thought that this would be great, especially for you. I think you bring so much knowledge and expertise, and I've learned so much from you just over the last year of working here, and I think our listeners can learn so much from you as well.
Well, first of all, I'm very honored. I was given a lot of opportunities during my career, and I tried to make the most of those opportunities. And I think any leader will tell you that, while you might be the face of an award, the team behind you is what won the award. And that is no different for me. I was so blessed to have a team second to none. And, when you trust your team and you believe in your team, they make you shine as a leader. And so, all of that and 50 cents will get me half a cup of coffee when it comes to the award. But when you look at it, what I was most proud of wasn't the awards itself. It was what did we do to be considered for those awards. And we as a team went forth in all those environments that you talked about. And that's kind of why I'm really excited about the opportunity for this podcast. When Todd first approached me and our company president, Dewey Wall, and said, hey, we'd like you to do this. I'll be honest with you. Initially, I was like, I'm trying to remove myself a little more out of the public eye since my public service years. But I also knew this gave me an opportunity to support, my brothers and sisters in blue and brown out there, and whatever the color uniform they wear, and be able to bring the experience that I had. All those awards came from experiences and things that we had to do out into the field, and we learned a lot of lessons from that. And I almost feel it's kind of my responsibility now, being where I'm at in my career, the fact I had a 30-year career and was retired, I get to bring that forward now, and I get to share that with our listeners, and I get to share that with fellow sheriffs and jail administrators. Maybe they pick something up from that, or maybe they look at that and say, I would never do that. But either way, they've learned something that will help make them better. And that's my goal, and that's a big thing here at Turnkey Corrections. Todd, how he is about partnership. We always need to partner, and he believes in it. It's not a buzzword here. He truly wants to support, whether it's our customer base, whether it's future customers, or just the law enforcement community in general. He is so supportive of that. And this was something he felt, we have you here, and we want to share you. And then once I get to work with you, man, I have a pretty cool partner in crime, lucky me. And, so I think, it's one of those things where, I've been in their shoes. And in the team here at TKC, when you look at the concerted effort the past few years to hire from the industry, that's why I'm here. When you look at our vice president of operations, he's a retired, and former jail enforcement leader and jail administrator. You look at a number of our salespeople and our regional managers are either former jail administrators, jail personnel, field personnel. We have, current part-time deputy is one of our regional managers, full-time, regional managers. So, when we walk into a situation with our customers and in the jail environment, we've been in their shoes.
Right.
When we sit down and we have that conversation with them about what's going on, and we've done what they've done. As they're explaining a problem to us, we're probably like, I remember a time I had to deal with that. As they're explaining the situation, we're probably already working on the solution.
Right.
So I used to joke all the time, and I'm, I guess really not even joking when I say I speak 3 languages. I speak English as my first language, but I also speak sheriff and I speak jail administrator.
Right.
And those last 2 were hard to learn, and they had to be earned over years and experience and just, getting my feet into the fire and learning all that. So when I come into a situation now, or we as the Turnkey Corrections team come into a situation like that, we've been in their shoes. We speak their language, and we can help better solve their issues. So it's I think, a great opportunity for us through this podcast to share our knowledge, our experience, and in just any way we can help and partner with that, help them better provide to their communities. Because when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, law enforcement is community-based.
Right.
They're out there to serve their communities. I used to tell people all the time, and I used to tell my people, we don't belong to ourselves anymore. We belong to the communities we serve. And when I was an elected sheriff, I believed in that to the core of my being. I believed in servant leadership, and I knew to the core of my being I belonged to my community. And my family, they found that out really fast.
Right.
That he's not just my husband, and he's not just our dad. He is the sheriff of the county, and we're going to have a lot of dinners and a lot of parties and a lot of events. But they also understood that. So all of that comes full circle to here. I'm retired now. But now I get to take all of that experience and share it with my brothers and sisters in the law enforcement world. And it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. And I think I could kind of relate to that too with, being approached to do the podcast. I was a little hesitant too, because like you said, so many of our employees, especially you have that background. I don't, I'm a year out of college. This is, still fairly new to me. But, talking with you and, Todd and Tim and, thinking about how I can bring, maybe the other side of the perspective, yes, we serve law enforcement, but like you said, they're serving the communities, and maybe that's more what I'm bringing to the podcast is that perspective. And, we talk about, the COVID crisis and the riots, and, a lot of that, what's being brought up is being brought up by my generation. And
you found your voice.
Yes. Yeah. My generation has definitely found our voice, and we're using it. And that's great. But, I think sometimes there's a disconnect between generations, and hopefully, that's what we can bring is a little bit more of a connect between the generations.
I was just going to ask you that. Do you think we can be a bridge and a gap between the generations? When we first met, when I first came, it was like, you're the age of my daughters. And, but very quickly, I think as we've been thrown into the environment here, we've had to travel together. We've done national shows together. We are both out there representing the company. But we find when we're visiting with our client base, I come at it from the perspective, I've come at it from 30-year law enforcement career, but you have a whole fresh look at everything and a really fresh perspective. And one of the things that I picked up on really quick was that perspective, and it's funny. You used to tease me off camera, so I'm going to out myself here right now. You used to tease me all the time. How do you find a podcast? I'm like, oh, you show me, and you did. Now we're doing this together, and I think that's what's going to make us a good team, Lauren, is that, I'm going to be able to bring that old timer perspective and that experience, but I think you're going to be able to challenge that. And let's face it, that's what's happening in our country right now. That's the impact that's happening to our law enforcement agencies out there and the sheriff's offices out there that rely on us, not only for the technology we bring to them, but now they can rely on us to bring them something different, maybe some solutions to leadership issues they're having within the organization, or maybe we can bring a solution, so, let's face it, the mental health impact across this country for law enforcement has been huge. When you look at what they've been through, between the COVID experience, they come right out of COVID, and the scheduling issues and the quarantine issues and all the things that impacted them right into a massive nationwide, really worldwide civil unrest and an attack on our profession like never before.
Right.
And if in any way, shape, or form we can help bridge that gap and help that communication and help them out there, hey, I'm in for the long haul.
Right. Just engage in dialect between the generations, between law enforcement, community, all the above.
Absolutely, and that's our goal. And as our listeners look at what we're doing and why we're doing this, that's why.
Right.
We want to make a difference.
Absolutely.
I used to tell people when I woke up every day, they'd say, "What's the one thing you're doing this the most when you retire?" I said, "Making a difference," and certainly make a difference here at Turnkey. We get to go out and serve these communities and serve these agencies. But now I think there's another way where we could say we're helping make a difference. And a lot of our listeners are probably wondering, who's Turnkey Corrections and what are you about? And just to give you a little bit of our history, to our listeners is we're a family-owned business. We're owned by Todd and Tim Westby. Todd is the CEO. Tim is the CFO. And we are a corrections technology company. That's what we do. We serve jails. We work within jails. And now we also help educate, train, and give back to the very people that we also serve in that capacity. And the history of TKC, we call it TKC, so bear with us. Cops, we have to have acronyms for everything, But here at Turnkey, they had a concept years ago, and a lot of people don't know this, but back in the 90s, Todd and Tim had a vending company, and they worked out of their garage, and they had a van, and they went around the metro area of Minneapolis, St. Paul, filling and servicing the vending machines. And we always kind of joke, they're our garage band guys. They really truly started in the garage. And when you look at what they've built here as a company, and now we're a nationwide company with warehouses around the country, it's pretty impressive to see what they've done. And, Todd was doing that, and he was actually approached by our very first client ever, Dakota County, Minnesota, approached him and said, "Hey, you have this vending company. Have you ever thought about bringing vending machines into the jail? And would you consider doing that?" And he, had never done that before, never considered it. But anybody knows our leader and knows our owner. There's no challenge that goes unmet. And, he attacked that like he does everything with fresh ideas, with a concept. And I think he quickly realized that inmates eat a lot of Snickers bars and ramen noodles. And he's built, initially the commissary company. And like we talked about earlier, Todd never rests. His mind is always looking at the next thing we can do. And that's why we're sitting here. Exactly. And, then came the telecom, TKC Telecom, our phone company, and our video visitation. And I moved on to our handhelds, our cellmates, our tablets, all that. And, we are the only company in the nation that's the one-stop shop, which is really cool for us, I think, to be here. And just the way he pushes us and develops us, yet still maintains that family atmosphere. We certainly saw that through this COVID situation. He's been so protective of his staff and so protective of his people. It's like having a second dad. He's really made sure we were good. And so to see that, it just makes it really fun to come to work. Don't you think?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Todd and Tim have been great always, but especially through this podcast experience. I mean, like we said, this is totally new for us. So yeah, they are always so supportive and just a joy to work with all the time.
Absolutely. So, what is Jail Talk going to cover? I think what we're going to do is hit just a myriad of the law enforcement issues that are out there. Every month, our goal is to bring forward an issue, but not only the issue, a solution to help our listeners, to help our law enforcement leaders, our jail administrators, our sheriffs, be able to go back, they finish listening to the podcast and go back and say, I'm going to implement that, and that. And if we've done that, if we can help them do that, we've accomplished the mission and why we're here. And so that's our goals, with the solutions. And I just think we're going to be able to do a lot of things. What do you think?
No, absolutely. Yeah. Like you said, our goal is to help whoever we can, whether that's law enforcement, the community, and everyone. So I think we'll definitely be able to do that with some of the guests we bring in too.
So speaking of that, do you want to introduce who our first guest for our first podcast is going to be?
I would love to. So we are bringing in Dr. Kimberly Miller. She is a police psychologist out of Colorado.
Fort Collins, absolutely, yes.
And so she's going to come in and kind of talk about some of the mental impacts that law enforcement's been facing from, like Paul had touched on, the COVID crisis and, the attack on law enforcement profession as a whole. And we're going to get her in here and kind of pick her brain a little bit. And Paul, I know you actually have known her for quite a few years, so maybe you can share with our listeners a little bit more about her. And
I definitely can, and I've been privileged to know her from the professional realm, and I'm blessed to call her a friend. I got to know Dr. Miller through my time on the National Sheriff's Association, NSA's National Board of Directors. She is, one of our psychologists that we go to. She's taught numerous classes. I've attended numerous classes of hers, and it just grew a deep respect for her knowledge of the police culture, the police world, and how to make it better, and how to dissect some of the issues and help improve. And I initially approached her about coming in my last term as sheriff. I was rewriting the strategic plan for that whole 4 years, and I had talked to her about that, and just was so impressed with how she kind of looked at things. We brought her in under a number of different sessions. I had over 60 of my personnel in the room with her over the time frames that she was there, and she helped us set our course, but not just set the course. What were our goals? What were our objectives? And how were we going to accomplish that? And we had a written roadmap from that time on. So I had a deep respect for her knowledge. And she's just kind of fun to be around. You'll see, she's from Alabama. She comes with the accent and everything. And she's, and she's a huge Auburn fan. So, if you bring up War Eagle, you'll get a big smile on her face. Right. So I'll just tuck that on the back of your mind if you want to score some points with Dr. Miller. But it's really exciting to bring her here. Mm-hmm. And she is, again, going to share that knowledge. And our goal with that first podcast is to show that we're walking the walk we talk. Mm-hmm. We really want to make a difference for our jail communities, for our law enforcement community, and anybody that wants to listen to what she has to say. She's going to have some excellent advice, and hopefully something that they can take away and instantly put into play. So it's going to be really, really fun to have her. And, I'm excited for the episode.
Yes,
it's going to be good. And that's exactly those kind of guests who we're going to have on Jail Talk. And that's what we're going to do every month, is bring them something they can bring back and use. So I know we're probably going to have a lot of listeners that maybe have some ideas, and you've solved that.
Yes. So we have an email set up. It is jailtalk@turnkeycorrections.com. So that's jailtalk@turnkeycorrections.com. So please feel free to send us any questions or comments or maybe ideas that you guys have. And, if we like what we see, we might just be able to get you on a phone call on the podcast or maybe bring you in. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I know Paul.
I don't think we're going to have all the fun alone here.
No.
Some of the best things that you learn is from those that are out in the industry. And
absolutely.
If you have an idea, if they have a question, cause, a concern, or want to share something they've done, we want to exploit that knowledge. Right. And again, it's this walking the walk we talk. This Jail Talk isn't about us. We just get to steer the ship towards the solutions for our clients and for our listeners. So it's going to be kind of a really cool endeavor. And definitely feel free to reach out to it. jailtalk@turnkeycorrections.com. Lauren's going to be checking that daily, and we will get your questions and maybe even you on the show with us. So with that, it's probably time to close out our first podcast here. I want to say, what an honor it's been for Todd and Tim to ask us to do this podcast. Having spent 30 years in the business, wearing that uniform, going out every day and serving the community where I grew up and where I loved, and to be elected a sheriff of that community was probably the greatest privilege of my life, to wake up every morning and know that the very people of the community where I was born and raised said, Paul, you are our guy, was something that's really almost hard for me to put into words what that meant to me every day. But I also knew that every single day I had to go out and deliver. Every single day I had to step up and be that leader that they expected, whether it was during time of crisis, whether it was just the daily operations of a 200-plus person sheriff's office. We had to deliver. Well, that's our promise to you here, too. We're going to deliver. We're going to bring you quality information. We're going to bring you quality training ideas. We're going to bring you quality solutions. So with that, we are going to close out this episode, and we're going to turn the key like that. Was that good?
Good
on the for the next episode, and we're going to be really excited to have Dr. Miller here and start moving forward with each episode. So on behalf of both Lauren and I, thank you for tuning in. See you soon.